Don't just sit there like a princess. Pregnancy isn't an excuse to be lazy, my mother-in-law snapped, her voice slicing through the silence like a blade. Oh, don't think you can take advantage of me just because you're pregnant. I'll teach you how to clean your house. Come on, get ready, she barked, her words dripping with disdain. I swallowed my pride, my hands trembling with a mix of humiliation and anger as I grabbed the cleaning supplies she shoved into my arms. She made me scrub the floors, wipe the windows, and polish every surface until my back felt like it might snap in two. Every muscle in my body ached, screaming for mercy. By the time she demanded dinner, I was barely standing. The smell of food hit me like a wall, and I stumbled to the bathroom, my body finally giving up under the crushing weight of exhaustion and hunger. But before I could recover, her voice bellowed from the kitchen, louder and sharper than ever. Zoe, how much longer do you plan on hiding in there? Get out and finish cooking. My heart pounded with dread as I waited for what might come next, but then, to my surprise, the situation took an unexpected turn. My name is Zoe, and I'm a 27-year-old office worker. My husband Bryson and I have been married for 2 years. We both work, but we live together supporting each other. Then something wonderful happened. I found out that I was pregnant. My husband and I were overjoyed. We were looking forward to the birth of our new family member, and I took maternity leave when I found out I was pregnant. Before I knew it, I was in the last month of pregnancy, and the baby could be born at any moment. Since we were expecting twins, we had to switch from a general hospital to a private hospital that could handle emergency surgeries. It was getting difficult for me to handle my daily life on my own, so my husband suggested that I temporarily live with my parents. My father died when I was a child, and my mother is the only one at home. My husband and my mother have a good relationship, and I'm used to living at her house. It would be the most stress-free place for me, so I have been living with my mother for a few months now. The hospital where I'm going to have my baby is closer to my mother's house too. It's been very comfortable there, but at the critical moment before the birth, I had to face a terrible disaster. My mother-in-law, Alicia. My first impression of my mother-in-law was not bad. She was kind to me when we first greeted each other. She spoke to me openly at family gatherings, but one thing led to another, and I began to see her for what she really was. Why was my mother-in-law involved here? Well, I had to ask her for a favor. My husband, a special design engineer, had to resolve an issue with a local client, which only he could confirm. At the same time, my mother had appendicitis and had to be hospitalized for a few days. My husband was worried about me being alone, so he suggested that my mother-in-law stay with me to take care of me. I had a good impression of my mother-in-law at the time, so I agreed it would be great if she could come. Alicia agreed, and I thought I could rest easy, but the moment she arrived at my house, she started to go wild. "Oh my God, your house is such a mess," she exclaimed. "Do you and your mother clean the house?" She was rude out of the blue, and she even insulted my mother. I had the impression that my mother-in-law was a kind person, so I was taken aback. "Mother, thank you for agreeing to take care of me for the next few days," I said politely. "Oh, you must have misunderstood something," Alicia sneered. "What?" I asked, confused. "I'm only here to call an ambulance right away if you get sick. You need to take care of the housework yourself," she declared, adding, "Oh, don't try to take advantage of me just because you're pregnant. I'll teach you how to clean your house. Come on, get ready." I had no choice but to obey my mother-in-law. She made me walk around the house and forced me to clean up every corner. Then my mother-in-law made me cook while I was at the point of extreme exhaustion. The smell of the food was too much for my pregnant body. I rushed to the bathroom and threw up in the toilet. But because I hadn't eaten anything since my mother-in-law had been making me work hard, there was only liquid in my stomach. I felt I was in danger from the very first day. "Hey Zoe, how long are you going to stay in the bathroom? Come out and cook," she demanded impatiently. I'm sorry, I said, barely able to stand. Young people these days really don't have any patience, Alicia scoffed. I don't think the difficulty of pregnancy is something that can be dealt with patience, I managed to reply. How dare you talk back to me, she shouted. Don't be so proud because you're pregnant. You're so cheeky. I'll knock your rotten guts out. Tomorrow we'll do a more thorough cleaning. We'll clean the yard and get rid of the weeds. But I don't think I can pull weeds. I'm in my last month of pregnancy, I protested. Don't be so lazy, my mother-in-law barked. You need to strengthen your legs. You've been spoiled. You've been living a lazy life. You can't raise a child like that. But the doctor told me to rest as long as I could, I insisted. I know what I'm talking about. I've given birth to my son and my daughter. Listen to me instead of that nonsense doctor. You can go to sleep today, but from tomorrow on I'll be more strict, so be prepared, she said with a grin. My mother-in-law didn't want to teach me. She was just enjoying giving me orders and abusing me. I thought that if I continued to listen to her, I might have a miscarriage, so I tried to resist as much as I could. That's enough. Of course it's right to listen to what the doctor says. What you're doing is just bullying your daughter-in-law, I told her firmly. How dare you? Alicia shrieked. I knew I couldn't trust you after all. What do you mean? I asked. I'm saying I can't trust a child from a single mother, she declared. They don't get a good education from their mothers. That's why I didn't want my son to marry you. I see. That's what you were really thinking, I said, stunned. Yes, that's right, my mother-in-law admitted. But you can at least give me grandchildren. As soon as you give me grandchildren, I'm done with you, she continued. What do you mean you're done? I asked in disbelief. Well, a separation and a divorce would be ideal. My son and grandchildren can come back to our house, Alicia said coldly. I understand your point, I replied. At best, I'll support you until the birth, she added. No, I've had enough, I said, finally reaching my limit. What are you talking about? Without me, the babies will be in danger. Don't be selfish and do as I say, my mother-in-law retorted angrily. Then my husband came home just in time. Hey Mom, what's going on? My husband asked. What? What do you mean? What? Why are you home? Didn't you go on a business trip? My mother-in-law replied, clearly surprised. Luckily, there was no problem and I could make it home in time today, so I came back. Then I got a message from Zoe asking me for help. I called her and asked her to stay on the line, he explained, his tone calm but firm. So, our conversation so far? My mother-in-law muttered. Oh yeah, I heard everything, he added, looking directly at his mother. Mom, what kind of danger are you putting my pregnant wife in? Well, when I was pregnant, Alicia started, but my husband interrupted her. Medicine is much more advanced than it used to be. Of course, the doctor is right. Besides, Zoe is having twins. She's going to have to be more careful than a regular pregnancy. If anything happens to the babies, it's your fault, Bryson concluded angrily. Oh no, my mother-in-law exclaimed, looking visibly shaken. Besides, you made fun of Zoe's mother for being a single mother. I didn't know you were like that. You only judge things on the surface, my husband said, his voice growing colder. Well, it's the truth, isn't it? I don't trust single parents. I'm sure their kids don't have a good upbringing anyway, she replied dismissively. So that means I and all the other people who work for her mother aren't good people either? My husband challenged, his eyes narrowing. What? She asked, confused. I told you that my mother is a business owner when we met with each other's families, I reminded her. I thought that was just some bar or something like that. I thought she was just trying to sound cool, Alicia muttered defensively. Oh, that's right, I uttered. I didn't know you had such a prejudice. I thought you were a bit more flexible in your thinking, Bryson shot back. Zoe's mom is the president of the company I work for. She was recently featured in a business magazine. It was originally her husband's company, but after he passed away, she took over the company. She's been running the company for over 20 years, he explained. Well, I didn't know that, his mother admitted. If you had known, you would have changed your attitude? That's bullshit. I hate people who change their attitude depending on the status of the other person. Basically, you've been making fun of Zoe and my mother-in-law all along, right? I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Besides, you put my babies in danger too. I'm cutting ties with you, Mom, he declared firmly. You can't do that, she cried. Don't ever show your face in front of us again, he replied, his tone final. Wait, I apologize, so please forgive me, my mother-in-law begged, her voice breaking. No, I won't forgive you. What you said to Zoe was terrible. I will never be able to forgive you. I'll tell Dad and my sister about this, Bryson replied coldly. Oh no, she whimpered, her hands trembling. Now after you hurt my family, get the hell out of here, he commanded, pointing toward the door. My mother-in-law's face was pale and my husband forced her to leave. I'm really glad he came back soon. If he had left me alone with my mother-in-law, I don't know what would have happened after tomorrow. After that, my mother-in-law went back to my parents-in-law's house. But my husband had told my father-in-law all about it, so my mother-in-law was not allowed in the house. Then my mother-in-law asked my sister-in-law for help, but my husband had also told this to my sister-in-law, so she refused to help her. My sister-in-law has some problems with her mother-in-law, although not as bad as mine, so she could not tolerate her own mother bullying me. My mother-in-law was abandoned by everyone in the family. She went to her father-in-law again and cried and pleaded with him. My father-in-law made her promise to never bully me again, and as my husband told her, never to get involved with us again. She was able to come back to the house then. He also told her that if she broke even the slightest promise, he would divorce her immediately. In addition, as punishment for what she did, he also ordered her to help him with his brother's farm for 3 months. My mother-in-law was forced to work in the heat of summer, reaching the limit of her physical strength. She really deserves it. Meanwhile, I gave birth to healthy twins. My mother was also discharged from the hospital and is happy to hold her grandchildren in her arms. My husband suggested that I stay with my parents for a while until I get used to being a new mother. My husband and my mother both support me to raise the babies and do the housework. We have a strong sense of unity as a family, and we care for each other a lot, so we are able to live together in peace and tranquility. By the way, my husband's family members all come to visit us, except my mother-in-law. They're very happy to see our children. I hope to continue to live happily with all my family.